Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can create disk encryption policy via Microsoft Intune to deploy it on endpoints. So endpoints includes all the devices, be it Windows, be it Mac devices, and those devices would be fully managed by Microsoft Intune, right? So what this policy is all about? This policy is going to be encrypting the local drives on the devices as well as the data or the folders that we are going to select or be a part of this endpoint security for disk encryption, right? So before that, I wanted to give you a bit context about this, what disk encryption is, and why we should do it, right? And what are the reasons to do that? So, the first reason would be when we are deploying or managing devices in the corporate assets like Intune or SCCM or any device management platform. In that case, we wanted to make sure the data and everything which is residing within the device is make sure or is secured enough, right? So that in case there's any such actions or activity happening, like data breach or any any incident, right? Someone might have access to the device and they can steal the data and those kind of activities, right? So those are the activities can happen from any incident, like end user has just open a phishing link or phishing email and then that was kind of storing stealing the data from users device and credentials and everything, right? So those are the different things that can happen, and to be protected on such actions or such issues, we have to deploy the disk encryption so that we can encrypt the disk. And even if the device was hacked or the hackers got the access on the device, they won't be able to pull out the data or get the data from the device. And if even they get the data, they cannot decrypt it because we have encrypted that data, and they won't be able to decrypt it and access and use it, right? So that is when encryption is very much important on a data level, on disk levels as well, right? Apart from that, there are different reasons as well when someone or maybe device itself was stolen, or maybe device was taken away from user, and the person who has stolen, they will try to reset device, or maybe they will try to repurpose the device for their personal or their own usage. And in that case, this encryption will not allow them to do anything on the device. Instead, we can push out some different policies and configurations like wipe the device or block the device, and then they won't be able to access it simply, right? So these are the different reasons why we wanted to or we should do deploy disk encryption, right? And apart from that, there are other scenarios as well, like if the data is very much confidential and we don't want that data to be seen or maybe get by someone else or the people who are not belongs to that particular data at all, right? So in that case also we can get the visibility, and this encryption policy is going to help us there too. Okay, so without wasting time, I'll just simply jump onto the disk encryption, and I'm going to show you how we can create for Windows as well as for Mac devices, and then I'm going to give you a real example here how we can create and manage it. So let's head over to the disk encryption here, and here you will see a few policies I have created before, but I'm going to show you a brand new policy for Mac as well as for Windows. So here we need to select the platform. Under the platform we have profiles. So profile, we have two options. So first is BitLocker, which is going to encrypt the drive, and it's going to help us to protect the data, right, on the devices. So the drives includes all the drives on the devices, which are C drive, D drive, and any other drives that are available on the device itself, right? So all those drives would be encrypted, and the data would also be encrypted on it. So if anyone try to access or something, then it is not going to let them do, right? This also supports Windows 10 and later device types, and it has the capability to work with MDM supported devices only, because definitely it needs a device which can handle the policy itself. Otherwise this policy is not going to really work for us, right? So for now I'm going to simply click create button here and give it a name, BitLocker on Windows, right? So this way we can identify what it is and how we can create. So under here you see bunch of settings and configurations, right? So I'm going to just minimize this, all the options, right? So here are different options that we can configure within BitLocker. So under BitLocker you see required device encryption, we can set it to enable because disable is the default one, and when we wanted to set it up we should enable it. Allow warning for other disk encryption, so we can enable, default is the enable. So and this is going to warning that particular drive is going to be encrypted, and if it is not, then user has few actions or steps to take in order to bring the enable or bring the encryption on it. The next is configure recovery password rotation. The default is a refresh off, and we can set it to refresh on for Azure Ready joint devices or Azure refresh on Azure Ready joint and hybrid joint. So we can set it up based on the needs and requirement here. BitLocker drive encryption. There are two options. Choose drive encryption method and cipher strengths for Windows 10 version this and later. So we can see that, or we can select that as per our requirement. Again, this is something which really needs to be considered and decide beforehand by creating before creating the policy, and this should also be tested thoroughly so that we know what is going to be expected results and what is going to happen later, right? So for now I'm going to simply keep it as it's or as default, and I'm not going to add or change anything. And here I can select the enable, or if I select the enable, then I need to provide the BitLocker identification field on a device and BitLocker identification field here as well. So I'm going to keep it default. Similarly, operating system drives. So there are a bunch of options again that we can configure, and then basis on that it is going to impact or change, right? So these are really additional settings that we can set up. Let's say require additional authentication at startup. That means when the device is going to start automatically, not automatically, but when user starts the device, it is going to ask user to go through the initial steps in order to encrypt the drives on the device itself. For example, allow BitLocker without compatible TPM requires password, and then this is only for the uh, encryption when there is no pin setup, right? And also it is going to ask whether we wanted to ask for startup pin with the TPM when device is starting after restart or reboot, whenever it is starting after the first those cadence, right? So this is a more secure way when we are making sure the device encryption itself is encrypted from the TPM level as well as the drive level. So there is a double verification, and then only it is going to let people or users get into the system. Otherwise this is not going to let. Okay, so for now I'm going to keep it default here as is as of now, and we can definitely go ahead and change it as per need and requirement. But definitely there are a lot many things to do, like if we wanted to bring additional layer of security on startup of the device. If not, then we should not configure, but the drive level encryption is very much needed, right? And on the fixed data drives, definitely there are few options which we can enforce drive encryption on. In a, we can either enable or disable, and then we can choose what type of configurations we need to set up, and also deny write access on fixed drives. Those are not protected by BitLocker, so we can enable that as well. So I have given you an overview of this policy, but definitely it is not going to, capture, or it is not going to uh, configure all the other policies that are set or not configured, right? So it's only going to take the configuration that was configured within this one, right? So so this is all about the BitLocker configuration or BitLocker encryption. And next is scoping tags. I'm not going to add anything there, and then that should be good. Here on the assignment side, we can select a group to assign. So for now, I'm going to select all devices group, and here we can target include and add assignment filter if in case we wanted to add or change something, and then should be good too. And then save this policy. So this is going to create a policy as well as going to create a BitLocker policy here, and then that should be it to deploy, right? So yeah, this one. So once it is created, we can go back and see or change any configurations if in case we wanted to, and then if not, then we should be good to go ahead and deploy it, right? So let's go back and I'll show you another policy which is going to be our Windows and personal data encryption. So what is personal data encryption? It is also a data protection feature. It's part of Windows Disk Encryption, right? That encrypts the data which is on a device level, mostly the data which is within the folders specifically, and where we need to select the specific folders in order to encrypt those folders and data residing in it, right? And that is moreover supported on Windows 10 and later versions. Also, it is supported on the MDM managed devices, right? So this is also similar, but this does not encrypt the device drives at all, but this encrypts the data instead of that, right? So let's go ahead and do that, and I'll give it a name, Windows personal data encryption. And here you see personal data encryption. We need to enable it on a user level, and then we can select here protect pictures, then documents and desktops. So we can enable those folders or those capabilities. Let's say I wanted to encrypt the documents folder. So there are two options: enable PD on the folder, enable PD on the folder. If the folder is currently protected by PD, this will result in unprotecting the folder. So that means we need to enable it directly, and similarly this as well. So this is only going to scope on a folder level of the user profile and not the device level, right? So if we don't wanted to protect, or maybe we wanted to protect data as well as the drives as well, so this is really great way for us to protect the personal data on the device levels, right? So yeah, that's all for this specific personal data encryption policy. And next we can assign it to all devices, all users, or specific group, and we should be good to go ahead and create this one. All right, so this is also created. and here we can see it. This one. So this is the policy which you can see, personal data encryption policy, and it's created and assigned it on MDM. And the next policy I'm going to show you, it's specific to Mac devices. And for Mac devices, we need to manage or enroll the devices fully in order to put or push the encryption on those devices, right? So to manage that, there is a pure different configurations altogether, like enrolling the device into Apple Business Manager and integration between Apple Business Manager and Intune, so that whatever the devices we are enrolling and managing through Intune, it gets the all the configuration profiles and policies using through the Intune, and we can protect the device as well as we can push out the different configuration policies and configurations altogether to manage and make sure the device is compliant enough, device has appropriate configurations from security standpoint, also device has all the capabilities that we are pushing through from the security and management point of view, right? So under the Mac device, we have one capability which is file vault. So file vault is also a full disk encryption capability, which we can deploy through Intune for Mac devices. It supports Mac type Mac OS devices and the devices which are MDM supported, right? So it only supports those devices which are capable enough to pick up the MDM capabilities and from the MDM solutions, be it Microsoft Intune or any other platform, right? So let's go ahead and create it. I will give it a name, file alt on Mac OS, and then click next. So here we have configuration that we can select, which is enable file alt. So I'll enable it, and here you will see I need to select the personal recovery key rotation time period between 1 month to 12 months. So I'll select for 3 months, and you can see a scroll location description of personal recovery key. So here I need to give it some description, and then I can further configure number of lines allowed to bypass. Let's say 3 lines, 3 times, and then I can select disable prompt at sign out and hide recovery key as well, either yes or no. So these are really the options which are depend on our requirements, how we wanted to set it up, right? So this is going to specifically ask end users when they are trying to recover a device from the situations when the device was either locked out or device was in a situation which was not coming up from the normal state, coming up as in when we start the device, what happens is if there is no rotation or user was into situation when user tried multiple credentials or passwords and tried to log in and that went into recovery mode, right? And that is when it is going to ask users to uh, how whatever the prompts or configurations that we are going to set it up here, that's going to let them follow the same steps or things. For example, disable prompt at sign out, that means if we set to yes, it is going to not let them see or show that prompt, and there's no option for them to. If we set to not configure, then there's no configurations at all. And the main thing here is recovery key type, right? That we can set it up. Let's say personal recovery key rotation time period, either select it from 1 month to 12 months, right? So basis on the requirements and need, again we can set it up, and then a scroll location description of personal key recovery. So this is going to be kind of hint for the personal recovery keys for the device at a device level, right? So I have just put in this uh, word or this phrase here, but while deploying this policy, definitely that needs to be considered appropriately and then deployed, and basis on that this should be deployed across. So yeah, that's all for this file vault encryption policy, and we should go ahead and deploy this policy, right? Click next. And here I'm not going to add any, but we can definitely add any scope tags if in case we wanted to scope the device levels. And next would be assignments on a group or all users or all devices level. So in this case or in this context, all devices context is going to be capturing only the Mac devices and not the Windows devices. All right. So here this policy is only applicable to the Mac devices. If we have 1,000 devices and out of 1,000 we have only 50 Mac devices, and if you select all devices here, that means it is going to scope only those 50 Mac devices and not all Windows devices as well, right? So this is really important and and should know, right, and should understand as well that how it is going to scope. And all users means this is also going to do the same thing, but here it is going to verify which user account has logged in or associated with the Mac device and then deliver this policy to that particular Mac device only. And specific group selection would be something, whichever the group we have, be it Mac devices group or users group, right? So that way we can target and then it is going to be deploying the policy on it. So for now I'm going to select all devices for the purpose of this video, and then we should be good to go ahead and create this policy. So here at the last stage we can see summary and configuration settings, and then we should be good to create this one. All right, so this policy is also created, and we can see that this policy created, and we can go ahead and change or view the settings, the summary of the apply of the policy, and then properties, and then the monitoring capabilities here, right? Yeah, so this is how we can create the policies and then deploy it across the devices. And yeah, that's all for this video. Hope you will like this video. Please do like, share and subscribe, and thanks for watching.